Hi everyone, Aldba here. Welcome everyone to the QuickStick Build wrap-up video. In this video, I'm going to be covering multiple different points that I missed, mistakes that I've made, items that people would like to see, also a version of a free-to-play build that you can play without any previous requirements, and basically I'm going to try to go through everybody's comments and summarize everything that I feel that got cut or missed, needs to be put in. For the background over here, I've got a run of What Goes Up on Epic Elite. This was initially going to be my run for the level 30 video, realizing later there was only 27, making it on Elite 29, and also it took me more than an hour because I made a whole bunch of mistakes and I had to backtrack and whatever. So here's going to be a chopped up version of it, who's going to be thrown on the background. And every once in a while I'll probably throw in a comment, get Warjack to get some commentary on what's going on in the quest, but other than that we'll just talk about all the different things that need clarification, and I'll show the different parts like the items and the build. One big section I would like to dedicate is to the build philosophy, not so much in like high term philosophy, but really understanding how the build is supposed to work. So if you want to change something, you don't by mistake cripple the build. So I'll try to explain in detail why I made my decisions, and if you want to make your own decisions when it comes to changing things, you don't accidentally hurt yourself by cutting something essential or moving something in such a way that it no longer works. Anyways, so let's get into it. I want to start out by saying that I tried to make the QuickStick Build video very insightful, and I showed all the details. Now I noticed that a lot of people who play the game a lot are very good at the class that they play, but when they come to play some class that they don't play very often, they don't really know how the mechanics work, and it's very important that they should be able to. Also, there's a lot of new returning players. I was playing this game with somebody who was using a Quarterstaff, and we're in the same party. He was level 30 and so was I, and he had half as much hit points as I, and he was using Roll's Might, who's an outdated old Quarterstaff. So I realized he must have been an old returning player. So I asked him if he has Epic Defensive Fighting turned on. He says, I don't know what that is. So I explained to him how to turn on, and his hit points went up by like 50 just by clicking one thing. So knowing these little details, especially for returning players, can be a big deal. So I tried to make sure I explained everything as best as I could. I would like to address a big mistake I made. I said in the video that the critical multiplier increases from +2 to +3, and then again from +3 to +4. And this was a big oversight. I did not notice that the critical multiplier in both cases is competence bonus, and they do not stack. So the maximum you're going to get is a +3. Now in the video I did show evidence that I should be getting around +4, but I was misled by the fact that I was getting more damage because of extra damage bonuses to critical hits. So Seeker, for instance, is an extra bonus damage for critical hits. Part of it I got from the enhancement, and also I got from my items. When you see the items section, look out for the Ring of the Stalker, and you'll see how I got my extra damage. So thank you very much for pointing this out. This also saved me from a big mistake I was doing in my next planned build, where I was doing the same exact mistake where I was overlooking the competence bonus not stacking. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it, especially for pointing out and being nice about it. Thank you again. Warjack here with just a quick note. One of the optional quest objectives is to find 2 jeweled keys. One of them is hiding someplace at the start of the quest, either underneath one of the walkways or inside of a breakable, so keep your eye out for it. One of the things that I was faced when making my first video guide for a build, which was the machine bow build, I had no point of reference. Basically what I did was looked at everybody else's videos, who boiled down to being basically somebody standing in place and talking. Maybe by doing a reincarnation and showing the reincarnation process as they leveled up. But nobody made it detailed as they were playing the game, level by level build. And once I finished my first build, I realized I can improve on it significantly. That's what I was trying to do here. And seeing the statistics of how much people watch it, I definitely did much better. and I believe I can do better, and that's why it's so important to me when people give me comments. All the feedback you give is what I use to process and try to make videos better. It really is up to everybody's positive feedback and the way that they try to explain what is it they're trying to get across. It makes it easy for me to analyze everything and try to come back with a good video really is going to be satisfactory. So if I'm planning right now to make my next build, I'm definitely going to take all the feedback I got from this one and make it better. Try to cut down on all the extra things that don't need to be done and put in more stuff that is requested and the things that you really want to see. So it really is up to you guys. All the feedback you do is really appreciated. So thank you very much. One of the abilities that the rogue has is Sweeping Strike, which is a very cool ability when it trips things. Now, I don't actually care about it tripping or not tripping, but if you do care about it, you can actually craft yourself items without the trip. I know I crafted a pair of gloves that had tripped and insightful trip on them, and they were great as long as the heroic levels. Once I got to epic levels, my DCs weren't strong enough. And basically, anytime you have an ability that adds some kind of effect who's not damage, usually with this build, whatever the effect is that would add damage is just better, because I'd rather kill something after 3-4 hits versus freeze him, stun him, I don't know, paralyze him, and then hold him there for 10 hits. It doesn't calculate. It's not worth it. That's why in this build, I always go for whatever makes the most damage, because killing monsters as fast as possible is your #1 priority. If you've got other bonuses that help you out, negate damage, etc., yeah, that's great, but your main focus should be to put out as much damage as possible. Warjack here again. This next part of the quest is a bit repetitive, so I'll just summarize what goes on. You've got this circle of hallway that has a whole bunch of little rooms coming off of it, and your objective is to go through all the rooms and clean them out. You get to fight a whole bunch of Shader Kai in the hallways. Your first objective is going to be finding like a mini boss who's got a pseudo dragon. Once you defeat them, you'll be able to unlock all the other rooms. Some of the rooms we're first looking for a crest, and second we need to find Orifon. Once we find both of them, we can open up the way and let us out. Before that, we can first find a silver key, which you can activate on a special locked room cube. This will open up one locked barrier where you can find a shade. If you fight and defeat the shade, you will get the second jeweled key. Basically, once we've done all this, we're going to move on. Here we've got a big fight against a bunch of these Arcanists. You kill one, and then the next one lets go of his focus on the orb, and they all come fight you until you fight Zelagat, who's the main boss. And when she's defeated, everything like blows up, and then you get access to the next area. Last point, the shrine right over here does not despawn once you pass it. You can leave it, save it for later. The shrines outside, once you pass them a certain distance, they despawn. So you should go out and use those shrines, not this one. Here for my first low-level quarterstaff. I've got this quarterstaff I got off the auction house. Basically all it has is some extra effects, in this case poisonous, and I added to it Festival Icy Burst. Festival Icy Burst is really overpowered at low levels. I know this is situational and you don't always have the option to just add Festival Burst. Sometimes you can find it in the auction house pre-made, or if you're planning this build ahead, you might want to consider finding some very low level quarterstaffs and putting some Festival Icy Burst on it. Also added Force Critical, just because it was cheap and it's an extra bit of damage. Next we have the Ethereal Quarterstaff. This comes from Keep of the Borderlands. You can buy it, it's very cheap. It's not really good. The only reason I buy it is if you need something who has Ghost Touch on it and you don't have any other option. So this is a very cheap and easy way to get it. Here we have the Nicked Quarterstaff. This comes from the end of the chain of the Corn Lords in the marketplace. Now this is actually a pretty good quarterstaff for level because it has extra deadly on it and it's 2d6 force. It's pretty nice, but I don't know if I'll go farming for it. This is more of an item that if you happen to pass by and see it, you should pick it up because it can be good for later on. Here I've got a quarterstaff I just crafted using Cannith crafting. Put bludgeoning and holy on it. It's pretty nice actually, and I made sure I had a slat on it. Overall, this is a great leveling quarterstaff. Next, I have a quarterstaff also crafted. This one has Everbright on it, making it blue shine, so I can use this against oozes. Also very useful. For very low levels, I just use random trash quarterstaffs for hitting oozes. Here I've got a quarterstaff that I bought off the auction house. Just has Vorpal on it. Notice that Vorpal adds to the base damage, not only the instant kill when you roll a 20, but also the base damage is increased. And I added Force Critical on it and Festival Frost. Again, this is situational, but I don't know if I would use a Vorpal quarterstaff and miss out on the damage. Why should I try to kill something instantaneously and when I roll a 20 when I kill him anyways in 3 hits? If I just have better quarterstaff with more damage on it, overall, it's not worth it. Here's another quarterstaff I bought off the auction house, and I added Festival Icy Burst to it. This one, instead of doing Vorpal, this one actually just does straight up damage, so electrifying, so 2d6. And it has also an extra critical bludgeoning on it. Overall, this is more like for boss monsters who won't die from Vorpal. This next one comes from the land of Barovia. This is the Ravenloft quarterstaff for level 10, the heroic version. This is a great quarterstaff, super easy to get, and definitely is going to be one of the weapons that carries you for a few good levels. Not hard to get, totally worth it. Here I've got an honorable mention. Shining Crescents is actually a sickle, but it uses the same animation as a quarterstaff. I don't recommend actually using this as a quarterstaff. Its base damage is 2d6 instead of 1d6. That's okay, I guess. It's not too great. And the only real reason why I'm mentioning it is because this is what I made a cosmetic out of. This is what I used in the solo run of Tower of Despair. This was my cosmetic during that raid. I do not recommend farming for this item, but if you already happen to have this item and you would like to have some way to use it, you can make a cosmetic out of it. Just don't try to add a cosmetic aura to it, it doesn't work. Next up, I've got the Green Steel Quarterstaff. This is a triple positive quarterstaff. That means I added to it Holy, Good Burst, and Good Blast. This gives you a clicky of Rise Dead, who's very useful, allows you to use your clicky without becoming uncentered, and also it gives you Greater Disruption, which is basically like Greater Vorpal for undead. Keep in mind you don't actually have to go into the Shroud to craft this, and if you happen to have some stored up materials, if you've got the shards and the materials, you can just build it on the spot. And I used this for my second round of the QuickStick build, and it was worth every cent. It was great, it was lots of fun, I get tons of mileage out of it, so yeah, I definitely recommend this if you have the ability to do it. Here I have the Alchemical Quarterstaff. This comes from the Master Artificer raid. You can just buy it straight off the auction house if somebody sells it. And I added crystal to it. Now its base damage is 2 1d6, making it a little stronger than a regular quarterstaff. And the reason I added crystal is so it would have an ooze beater. Nothing crazy, but if you happen to have a quarterstaff like this, it might be worth putting some crystal on it so you can beat on oozes and stuff like that. Here I have Light Undying. This comes from the Archon's Trial on Shavarath. I do not recommend farming this item, but if you happen to pick it up, this is a good Metaline Pure Good item, and you can use it to pass damage reduction. It's a pretty wimpy quarterstaff when it comes to base damage, and that's usually what we care about. So I don't recommend farming it, but if you have it, yeah, might as well use it. Up next, we have the Dream Spitter. This comes from the Giant Hold raid, Reaver's Fate. It is a really old quarterstaff. It was a classic one, but it's no longer worth anything. Now, the only reason I'm pointing it out is it's made out of crystal. That means you have the ability to hit oozes with it. So for me, I really wanted to use this item, so I've got a fully upgraded version here, and this is my ooze beater for level 14. I actually used this particular quarterstaff in my Creeping Death video. So you can see, once you upgrade it, it has Force Burst, and you can also add to it Holy. Next we have Breeze. This comes from the Black Abbot raid. This is a level 14 quarterstaff. Its base weapon dice is 1d10, not 1d6. And its critical profile is 18 to 20, and that's baked in. It means with your plus 3 to the critical range, you're getting 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And this makes it very powerful. This is definitely one of the most powerful quarterstaffs at level. I don't think it's recommended to farm it, just because it's so hard to get a group together these days to play this raid. But if you happen to have one of these in your bank, it might be definitely worth looking into. Next, we have the Moonbeam. This one comes from the Sharn Quest Best Laid Plans. This is definitely worth your effort when it comes to farming. This is pretty easy to pick up. Note that its improved critical profile is not baked into it. It comes from impact, so you're not going to get more than your usual 17, 18, 19, 20 times 3 out of this item. But it has Falling of the Oak. That means anytime we hit somebody with 4 pull, he's knocked down, which is a nice thing. Also, it's got 9% double strike. Anyways, much recommended. Definitely go after this. Finally, we have Roll's Might. There's 5 different versions of this. They all basically have the same thing with just some different extra effect. This is a 1d11 for its base damage, and its gimmick is that it does slash, pierce, and bludgeoning damage. This used to be considered a good quarterstaff. It's no longer worth anything, but if you happen to have one and you want it for damage reduction purposes, like you want to get past a Rakshasa's damage reduction, this could be useful. Truth is though, don't bother with it. Here we're going to get into epic levels. Here I've got the epic ethereal quarterstaff. Now I don't recommend this quarterstaff. The only reason I'm putting it on this list is because if you for some reason don't have any way to deal ghost touch damage, this might be your only option of a ghost touch quarterstaff. And it might be very important, especially if you're doing Reapers. Its base damage though is really weak, and it's not even close to what you get from the Stout Oak walking stick. Basically, don't get it if you don't have to have it for the ghost touch. First we have the Stout Oak walking stick. This comes from the Villager Trader. You'll need 15 commendations of the Villagers of Evening Star. And this is definitely one of the best quarterstaffs at level. It was a big surprise for me. First of all, the base damage is 2d6. That's basically like a greatsword. And it's 2d6. And also, it has 1920, but that's not baked into it. Also, it is aligned. It means it passes damage reduction like good and evil. Overall, this was a great surprise. It accepts Sentience, so you can already put your Sentient weapon on this one if you do. This is probably the best overall weapon per level you're going to get. I definitely hardly recommend you should go out and get this quarterstaff. Here I've got the Drow Quarterstaff of the Weapon Master. This comes from House of Rusted Blades, but it's unbound when it drops, so you can buy it from the auction house. The different versions have a different additive to each one of them, and its main gimmick is that its critical profile is 18, 19, 20, and that's baked in. So you'll be getting a 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 out of it. Overall, it's okay, but still, it's not going to beat out the Stout Oak walking stick. Next we have Cirith, Spear of the Sky. This is a very good quarterstaff, and one of its main gimmicks is it has an insane critical profile. Baked into it is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That means baked into it, it's already a 25% critical chance. Then you add to that another 3, so you get 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then that's times 3 for you. So overall, this means there's a 40% critical hit chance. That's why I added Force Critical on it rather than just regular Force. I actually have a better chance, more damage, like that. Also, it has Lightning Strike and Cloudburst. Basically, this is a great quarterstaff. You can upgrade this more. I would point out that you might want to see if you happen to have a Raiders loot box laying around on your main character. That's one of the ways you can get this. Farming this quest can be annoying. I actually got this from the quest legitimately, and when it dropped, somebody was really annoyed at me that I took it and didn't pass it. I told them the next life I was running a Quarterstaff build, but you didn't believe me, but yeah, for the record I did. So here it is. This weapon might not be worth farming, but if you have any way of getting it, I think it's great. It's really special. Here we have the Thunder Forged Alloy Quarterstaff. Now, initially this is level 22. You can upgrade it to 24, then 26, and 28. I wouldn't go past 24. Now you should notice that it's first of all unbound, so a friend of yours can go and craft it, or you can sometimes buy it on the auction house. My version over here has Epic Bane of Dragons, which gives me really first degree burns, which adds vulnerability. You can also see I've got permanent damage on it because it's unbound. Now the thing about this quarterstaff that people don't notice is it's technically metaline. If you look at the damage types, you'll see that other than just bludgeoning, it has silver, adamantine, mithril, cold iron, etc. So this quarterstaff technically is a metaline quarterstaff, making it very useful when you want to come past damage reduction. This is what I use for the boss fight in the Jungle of Khyber video. This is a pretty cheap quarterstaff to get, and if you don't have something good, I definitely recommend it. Also, its base damage is pretty good. Warjack here with just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you. Next up we have Epic Bone Crusher. I would like you to note the base damage of this weapon. If before we were up to 25 on the Thunder Forged, this jumps to 43. This is a huge jump when it comes to base damage weapon. This is a level 26 item, and it's not too hard to farm, and it's definitely worth your effort. This is a really good item. Now, its base damage is 1d10 instead of 1d6, and baked into it is also 18, 19, 20. So you're going to be getting 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Here I've got the epic version of Light Undying. This comes again from the Archon's Trial. You'll notice that the base damage isn't that great, and I don't recommend farming this, but if you happen to have it, it's actually pretty good because it's metaline and holy. So metaline pure good, and it's got improved banishing. Overall though, it's not very strong, and I don't recommend it as your main weapon. Finally, we've got the legendary Moonbeam. This is, based on base damage rating, the best quarterstaff in the game. There might be better quarterstaffs for different builds, but when it comes to the base damage rating, this is the strongest. It's got 1d6 plus 4, who's better than 1d10, because it means you're rolling the higher numbers more often. And overall, this quarterstaff, other than just having a crazy damage rating, also has got nice effects to it. 23% double strike and felling of the oak, which basically means you knock things over. This is really powerful, and it comes from a regular legendary quest. This is not from a raid or something, so you shouldn't have a problem having people jump in and help you pull up from a chest. This is the end game quarterstaff you want when you're playing this build. Okay, now to the rest of the items. I'd just like to point out that I was recording for about an hour until I realized I didn't actually record video footage and it was only voice, so kind of got the wind knocked out of me, so I'm sorry about this next part. I'm just going to cop out and just stand in one place and show the rest of the items. I apologize. This comes from the Gatekeeper's Groove. This is the end quest, and what it gives you is it gives you Ethereal. This happens already at level 3, means any item you use basically becomes Ghost Touch. So you can always use your max damage weapon versus any monster you want, and it has Ghost Touch on it. That's why this item is so powerful, and I don't bother with getting quarterstaffs that have Ghost Touch on it. I think it's definitely worth trying to farm out. It's really useful, especially from a low level. And around level 8, I was suffering a bit because I didn't have enough HP. So I crafted this thing from the Slave Lord's chain. Basically give me a boost to my HP. Later I used this. Once I hit level 9, this comes from Crystal Cove event, and it adds plus 40 false life, which is a big difference. From the Kenneth challenges, I have this, Ring of the Stalker. This, from level 11, adds Manslayer. Basically, this adds Vorpal to all of your weapons. So again, rather than having a weapon that has Vorpal and give up on some of the DPS, use your best DPS weapon, plus this, which just adds Vorpal to it. And also it has Seeker. This is what was throwing me off, because this stacks with all of your critical hits, meaning when you hit for a critical hit, it's more than just the base damage times 3. It's times 3 plus this. And as you level up, I get more powerful ones. Here I've got level 15. This has Manslayer and Ethereal on it. So now I'm hitting Ghost Touch and Vorpal with all my weapons. And the Seeker is now plus 8. This is definitely a really good item to get. I don't know why people don't farm this out. I think they really hate the Canis challenges, but I think it's worth your effort. It's a really good item. Here's my version for level 20. This one is fully upgraded. It's got 2 slots on it. This time, instead of Ethereal, it gives you Ghostly. That means this ring will actually work also with a ranged weapon. And also there's a 10% chance that it'll miss you. Of course, it has the Manslayer on it, and it's got Seeker 11. So really strong to your critical hits. Now for when it comes for trapping items, so I've got sets of items. This was crafted, and it gives me plus 6 spot search, and the belt comes from the challenges. This one gives you plus 6 disable device and open lock at level 3. This is incredible. I don't know why people don't go farm this. Next up, I've got in my version for level 10, and this one has search and spot 12 plus 6 enhance and plus 6 insightful disable device. This is guaranteeing that I won't blow up any trap boxes. My set piece that goes with it is the belt. This is for level 7 plus 10 plus 10. This is a great item. Next step up, I've got the goggles from Vision of Destruction, plus 15 plus 15 to search and spot, true seeing. This is a great item, still relevant today. And the belt I have is kind of obsolete. There's the one that they have right now that you can get is a little bit different than this. It's level 15 I think, and it's plus 16 plus 16. This is a legacy item. You can't get exactly this version, but you can get the one that's very similar to it. Once I hit level 20, for my spot and search, I've got this trinket. I think this trinket is obsolete. I don't know if you can get it anymore, but you might have it on some item, on some different character of yours. And my goggles, I've got, now I moved them to have the disable device and open lock. It's 8 and plus 9 insightful disable device, which is very useful. Then at level 29, I upgraded to a plus 20 to disable device and open lock, and plus 10 insightful. So I know I can have a great DCs and I won't foil anything. Final end game items. Other than the quarterstaff that is a must, I recommend getting this set piece. Legendary Torgut. This is one of the 3 pieces of legendary part of the family, and this one comes from Sharn Welcome. This is a great piece of armor. The second set piece is the gloves. Unfortunately, since I don't have the 3rd set piece yet, I have not been using these gloves, but they should be great. I checked them out on Lemania and they're amazing. And the 3rd piece is actually the necklace. And I have a picture of it on the free-to-play when I was doing my free-to-play Quarterstaff rogue build. You can see it over there. Also, I wanted to get a ring who I can craft with Dexterity 21 on it. Final item that everyone, I believe, should have is this. Legendary Bronze Dragon Scale Belt. This comes from one of the Cogs quests, so it's relatively easy to farm out. You can see it's totally insane. It's got 21 Constitution on it, Sightful False Life 40, Healing Amplification 85, and Life Shield 50%. That means Death Block plus 50% to negate like negative levels and negative energy and stuff. This is crazy. You definitely should farm this out. It's easy to get. Like, usually in 3 runs you pick it up. Anyways. That's going to be it for all the different items that I will talk about recommending for endgame. In regards to Reaper, this build works very good when you're part of a party and you're kind of the designated tank. Especially in Epic Destiny of Unyielding Sentinel, you're extremely beefy and you have a lot of hit points and you can take a lot of damage. I played with parties in Reaper and I had more hit points than everybody by a good margin many times. As far as playing Reaper by yourself, my character is not strong enough to do this, and my healing is not strong enough for it. I only have like 16, 17 Reaper points, and that's really not enough to be able to solo Reaper. Now to the free-to-play version of this build. For race, I'm going to be taking a halfling, and the class is going to be rogue all the way through up to 20. Now for the ability score, we need Strength 8, Dexterity 18, Constitution 16, Intelligence 14, Wisdom 8, and Charisma 8. If you would have a 32-point build, I would add plus 2 points into my Strength and plus 2 points into my Wisdom. And if I had 34 or 36, I would probably add more into Charisma or more into Strength. Alternatively, you could just shove them all into Dexterity if you had a 36-point build and you wanted to get 20 Dexterity. Anyways, this is up to you. I'm assuming you have no tomes whatsoever, and when it comes to the leveling up, you're going to put everything into Dexterity. When it comes to skill points, we're going to max out Spot, Search, Open Lock, and Disable Device. This will give us full Trapper skills. Now, other than that, we also want to max out Use Magical Device, Jump, Balance, and also we want to max out Tumble. This will be very useful for the enhancements you get for Tumble. Also, we want to take Haggle. This will help you out, especially if you're a free-to-play character who does not have a lot of money. And finally, we're going to be taking Heal. This will add to our ability to heal ourselves while using the Dragon Mark of Healing. Level 1, I'll take Dodge. Overall, I'm trying to make this build to act exactly like the original Quarterstaff QuickStick Build. So in essence, I'm trying to keep it to feel exactly the same and play it exactly the same. Even though the fine details are different in certain aspects, the general feeling is exactly the same. So we're going to try to get ourselves our spring attack and our whirlwind attack. But it's going to be the leveling is going to be different. At level 3, we take Mobility. At level 6, we take Spring Attack. This means we get our long jump at level 6. At level 9, we're going to take the Dragon Mark of Healing. Level 10, we're going to take Improved Evasion. At level 12, we take Improved Critical Bludgeoning Weapons. This will add +1 to our critical range. At level 13, we'll take Slippery Mind. This will give us a second chance when it comes to throwing a will save. At level 15, we're going to take Combat Expertise. This is a stance that you can activate that will actually give you more AC. At level 16, you are going to take Opportunist. Level 18, we finally get Whirlwind Attack. This is kind of late, but luckily for us, we have all the special rogue attacks from the rogue enhancement tree. At level 19, we're going to be taking Defensive Roll. As far as the enhancements go, for a halfling tree I'm going to take all the core abilities and all of the healing abilities. When it comes to Thief Acrobat, this is our main enhancement tree. We're going to be taking all of the core abilities all the way up to level 20. The level 20 ability actually gives you another +5 to your quarterstaff speed. So you get a total of plus 20. That means the Quarterstaff speed on this free-to-play build is actually faster than the one that we have with the regular Quarterstaff QuickStick build. I'm going to be taking all the Quarterstaff attack and damage all the way up to the top, taking all of the top core, taking all of my special cleave attacks. I'm going to make sure I take the movement speed. It will give us another plus 20 to our movement speed at level 20. Making sure I get the 15% to attack and damage. Taking all the dexterity, that means the plus 1 dexterities, and the ones that add me to dodge and armor cap. And also I'm going to take 1 point and put into defensive roll. I spent a few points also in the mechanic tree. I took the core ability that actually just gives me access now to great crossbow for the occasional times I need something to hit with a ranged weapon. And I took the spot and search. That will help me out, especially if you're a free-to-play player and you don't have a lot of good items. Also, I took the plus 6 enhancement bonus to skills for 20 seconds. This is very important, especially if you're struggling finding traps or afraid to blow them up. And I took 1 little point in dexterity. At level 21, we're going to be taking overwhelming critical. Please note that you can activate also epic defensive fighting. It's only going to give you plus 5% to your hit points. At level 24, we're going to take Precision. This is a stance that is mutually exclusive with Combat Expertise. So we're going to turn off Combat Expertise and turn on Precision. This will bypass 25% of the fortification of enemies. At level 26, if you have access to the Epic Destinies, you'll be taking Perfect Two-Handed Fighting. If you do not have Epic Destinies, you'll just be taking Epic Toughness. Level 27, you'll be taking Blinding Speed. This gives you permanent haste. Level 28, you'll be taking Elusive Target. This is assuming you have Epic Destinies. If not, you'll be taking again Epic Toughness. At level 29, you'll be taking Dire Charge, assuming you have Epic Destinies. If not, you'll be just taking again Epic Toughness. At level 30, you'll be taking Epic Reflexes. This means you'll no longer automatically fail when you roll a 1 on your reflex save. It means if your reflex save is high enough, you will always be able to roll a successful save, even when you roll a natural 1. And for our legendary feat, we're going to take Psychon of Arborea, the same that we took with the QuickStick build. Okay, now for some final clarifications about this free-to-play version of the QuickStick build. First, what you see me playing is a solo run on Epic Normal of the Chronoscope Raid. This is what I do every time I check a build out on Lemania. I level up to 30, and then I jump in on Epic Normal. And if I can survive as a first lifer without any problems, I call the good sufficient. Okay, now there's some abilities that are unique to this version of the QuickStick build that the original version doesn't have, and they come from the core abilities of Rogue. So the first one you have to notice is there's different things you get from the core abilities 3, 4, 5, and 6. 4 just gives you immunity to knockdown and slippery surfaces. You can get that from freedom of movement, and the knockdown is also an extra benefit. Now, Core 3 gives you the ability to pass through enemies when you tumble. That means not only do you have the ability like Staff Lunge and Spring Attack to go through enemies, you can use Tumble whenever you want. It's never on cooldown, just use it and allow you to go through enemies. So if you ever get trapped in a bunch of enemies, you have to focus on this fact. You can hit Tumble and get out of enemies. And this will save you a lot from dying. Now the Core 4 gives you a buff every time you use the Tumble. It means you hold down shift or block, whatever it is, and move to one of the directions, you'll tumble. This will give you a 12-second buff +2 to strength and dexterity. Now, this doesn't go on a cooldown. It stays for 12 seconds, but you can reset the timer by just tumbling again. So if every 10 seconds you tumble, you'll always have a +2 to dexterity and strength. It's very powerful. Once you hit level 20, you get another one called follow through that gives you an additional +50 strike through for 6 seconds. Also, during that time you're on the buff, if you hit anything invulnerable, it knocks it down. Anyway, so these little things add up to the fact that you have to be more conscious about tumbling. In this case, in this build, tumbling actually gives you a few things, so you might want to throw it in here and there, or at least be aware of it, so in case you get trapped with a bunch of enemies, you don't die. Just tumble and get out of there. Okay, now for a few more points. First of all, at level 9, we took our lesser dragger mark of healing, and the reason we only take a level 9 is 2. First of all, you need a lot of action points to spend in the halfling tree so you can actually activate all the healing, and those action points are way more important to actually go into the quarterstaff damage and save the healing for later. And that's because of number 2, it's very easy to get good healing at low levels. You can either just use a hireling. First low levels it's okay, and you can also buy potions. Just get them from a potion vendor. At the center of the marketplace you can get cure moderate wounds, and if you happen to have a guild, you can get cure serious wounds from the guild vendor. Once we take combat expertise, this is a stance that you can activate that gives you extra AC. There's no reason why to not keep it on all the time, at least until level 24 when you get precision. Since we're not taking power attack with this build, there's no reason why you shouldn't use it and have it on all the time. It's just more AC. Finally, at level 26, if you have epic destinies, then you would take perfect two-handed fighting. This will actually give you another +5 to all of your hit points because you have activated epic defensive fighting. This will give you another +5 to your total hit points, and it also increases the power of your quarterstaff. It doesn't have any requirements of taking the other two-handed fighting abilities. Finally, I would just like to clarify, this version of the build that I'm showing here is basically supposed to be played exactly like the original version. That's why I'm just showing the leveling up process and how I spent my action points. But if you want to know how to properly play this build, you need to watch the original video. You have to watch the actual build guide where I explain everything, what all these enhancements do, and how you should spend your action points and in which order. Everything is all explained in full detail in that video. And that's definitely the main source for all the information you need to properly play this build. This is only showing the specifics of what's changed. In this case, it's all rogue and we're playing as a halfling. And I'm just showing a short version of how to build it up. But really, you have to watch the original build video to get a proper concept of how you're supposed to play it and how you're supposed to level up and put everything in your shortcut bars, etc. So if you haven't seen that video, you definitely have to see that before you try to play this build. I'd like to focus now on the actual build philosophy. Now, when I built this whole character, I wanted to make a quarterstaff build. Now, there's 3 classes in the game who have specific enhancement trees who help you out with quarterstaff. Those are Rogue, Monk, and Fighter. Fighter gets it through the Kinesis tree. If you take the enhancements to attack and damage in each one of those trees, you're stacking up much more than you would get if you just had one tree. So right out of the gate, I wanted to have a build that includes all 3 classes. Now, after different trials of different classes, basically what I came out with is that Rogue has the best DPS when it comes to using the cleave attacks. The problem with Rogue is it's not really a melee focused build, meaning you're not supposed to take all the damage. You're supposed to negate it by giving the aggro to other people. It means it works really good if you're inside of a party and somebody else takes aggro, and you come in from the side, just like an assassin. But if you come and you're the center of attention and everything jumps on top of you, you're going to end up dying really fast. Rogue doesn't have a lot of hit points, and you're going to be suffering a lot. You're not supposed to play this as if you're some kind of a paladin. That's one of the big problems with Rogue. So I took the minimum levels of Rogue. 5 levels allow me to fully fill up the tree, but I wouldn't have all the penalties to the hit points. Also, that would give me enough to be able to be a full trapper. So now the rest was going to be split up between Monk and Fighter. So at the end I went with 6 Fighter and 9 Monk. 6 Fighter allows me to get extra feats that I need because you're really lacking on feats that you want. Both Monk and Rogue have lots of feats that are class feats, and most of them do not help this build. The Rogue class feats, other than improved evasion, I wouldn't want any of them, they don't help me. And when it comes to Monk, a lot of his class feats are really cool for somebody who's playing an unarmed Monk. Like the stunning fists and all these abilities that are great. I'm not bashing on them, but they just don't work together with this build. You end up being forced to take specific feats that you don't want. So it was very, very complicated making sure that I juggled everything right, so that at certain levels, when I was forced to take a class feat from Monk, would be something that I actually wanted that would fit the build. So this is very tricky. You have to keep this in mind if you're going to change up the leveling. Now I ended up with 9 Monk because one of the things is you get improved evasion at level 9. Also at every 3 levels you get a bonus to your movement speed. So it's 5% per 3 levels. Actually the first 3 levels you get 10%. I think it's a bug. You're basically getting retroactively plus 5% for level 0, something like that. I don't know what the calculation is, but whatever the point is, you're getting a good amount. Level 3, 6, and 9, you're getting a total of 20% actually to the movement speed. It was really cool. Also, from the Rogue enhancements, I get another 5%. Now, one of the other things that it was very important to me is Monk is really hardy when it comes to its different elemental stance. I want to explain how these elemental stance work. So we've got 4 different elemental stance, and they pair up into 2 groups. So there's fire and water, and then there's earth and air. Now each one of them has a bonus to a stat and a penalty to a stat. The penalty is always -2. The bonus starts off as a +2, and as you increase your special Monk stance, that means you go from the base to Adept of Forms, and then to Master of Forms and Grandmaster of Forms, and eventually ends up to be +4 to the bonus stat. So we've got earth and air. Air is dexterity and earth is constitution. So if you take earth stance, that's +2, and then max it out eventually to +4 constitution, but it's -2 to dexterity. This is the best stance when it comes to being a tank. This also gives you an increase to your hit points and to your AC. When it comes to air stance, you get +2 to dexterity and eventually maxing out at +4 to dexterity, but you get a -2 to constitution. So I don't recommend using this at low levels when you're kind of low on hit points. It also gives you more double strike, and it gives you enhancement to your attack speed. Now from what I can gather from my testing, this attack speed is basically haste. So if you've got haste, you're already maxed out, it doesn't go any faster. Also if you've got an item who adds to your attack speed, like you can get on gloves and stuff like that, they always max out at 15. So you don't actually benefit anything from this. The only thing you get from this stance, it will be the double strike, which might be worth it. Keep in mind though that it makes you a little bit squishy. Now we've got fire and water. Fire adds to strength, starting with +2 and maxing out at +4, but it gives you a -2 to wisdom. Now the gimmick with fire is it increases the amount of ki you get, and then increases the amount of ki you get from critical strikes. And most notably, it gives you a +1 to your multiplier on 19 and 20. So once you get to Master of Forms, you get another +1 to your multiplier, a true +4 to your Quarterstaff when you roll a 19 or 20, which is really nice. So very strong critical hits. And finally, we've got water stance. Water stance gives you a +2 to wisdom, and it maxes out at +4 to wisdom, and a -2 to strength. I don't recommend using this at low levels, because usually at low levels you're suffering from not enough strength, and every time you get some kind of enfeeblement or anything who makes you encumbered, you go out of your stance anyway. So I don't recommend using this at low levels. And its benefit gives you dodge, and also it gives you helps you with your healing. This is one of the stances I used at endgame for a long time, and it was pretty nice. Usually I stick to fire at low levels, and eventually I'm either fire or earth at endgame, depending on if I want more DPS or if I want to be more of a tank. But anyways, that was Monk stance in a nutshell. To use all of these Monk stance, you must be centered. That means you cannot wear any armor, only cloth armor. The first 3 levels of the game, you're playing as pure rogue. You're not centered anyways. So you might as well use light armor for the first 3 levels, since light armor gives you a better benefit than just cloth armor. Once you get to level 4, now you already have the monk ability who adds your wisdom to your armor class. And it's no longer true that you should use light armor. Anyways, you want to be centered. So for the rest of the game, from level 4 and up, you're using cloth armor so you can be centered. As I mentioned before, I made a big mistake when it came to adding the critical multiplier from both the Kinsey Core 3 and what you get from Rogue. So the question is now, would I spend an action point on Kinsey Core 3? What Kinsey Core 3 gives you is it gives you +1 double strike for every core ability you have, meaning it gives you +3 double strike. So it's 1 point for +3 double strike. I personally didn't change it, I left it there. Is there better things? You might have. If you want to spend your action points differently, you might want to use that 1 action point to help you out, and maybe you'd buy yourself some more dexterity. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, so to speak, when it comes to extra dexterity in the trees that I didn't pick up. If I would have racial enhancement tree points, I definitely would move the points that I spent in there and spend them on dexterity in my main tree. This would increase my DPS by a lot. Also my armor class. Here we have the storage area with 4 chests. You can open 2 of them with the jewel keys you've got. Now the DM tells you that one of them, it looks like it's been tampered with. That's a hint. It's empty. Don't touch it. If you try to open it, it will just waste one of your keys. Now there's also these 2 trip lines on the ground. If you step on one of them, they trigger a trap who breaks the chest. So just jump above it. Also, do not hit any of the breakables before you open the chest, because that also will trigger a trap. So just jump above it and be very careful. Once you open up 2 chests, you've got all the loot you can possibly get and you can move on. One thing that I wasn't sure about and I was kind of vague about was the monk abilities of Healing Hands. His burst healing is affected by different things who help healing, like Healing Lore and Devotion. I wasn't sure about this and I didn't mention this, so thank you for ever pointed out in the comments. I really appreciate it. When it comes to using different races, the race is the easiest thing to change. The only reason I use Aasimar is because I want to use Healing Hands. Healing Hands is a big boost of healing. It was very useful, it can save you many times, and I do a lot of soloing. If you're running in a party and you're doing Reapers and stuff like that, and you're just depending on your party members to heal you, so you can use Human or any other race for that matter, and you can get the different benefits that each race offers. I would like to remind you that if you're trying to use some iconic hero, so if you start off with Shadar Kai, you'd be starting off with a proper class, and that would allow you to go along with the build 1 for 1 exactly like the guide. If you're using a different class, let's say you want to use Purple Dragonite, you're going to have to change the order a bit, and you have to make sure that all the feat and stuff work out. I do not recommend using anything else but Rogue for the first class if you want to get the maximum amount out of your skill points. You get 4 skill points at level 1, and every other level you get only +1. So if you want to be a full trapper, don't try anything else but Rogue. If you are going to do some other class, remember that if you use iconic heroes, if it's not going to be Purple Dragonite or Shadar Kai, you're going to have to use some kind of lesser reincarnation +1 at least to change that first level. Something that I should point out, the ability called Rain that I use, it gives me a lightning strike to my attacks, actually also gives you temporary hit points, 60 temporary hit points, and as far as I can tell this is not affected in Reaper, so you can kind of use this to buff yourself with healing, but I don't actually use it that much because I don't have that many hit points, and what I get out of Cocoon usually and Renew is better, especially not on Reaper. Warjack here with just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you. Here at this final fight, it can be very tedious since there's endless spawning monsters. So here's a cute trick that I found that I totally do not feel any shame in exploiting, because I think that this end part is really tedious and annoying. So right over here, as you come up around the corner, if you tuck around to the right, there's a safe spot. If you go all the way to the wall, there's like a little part right next to the wall where the enemies cannot hit you, and you also cannot hit them. But if you edge yourself forward slowly, you can get exactly to a place where your entire hitbox is still inside of the safe zone, but your weapon is pointing out. So you can actually hit the enemies and they can't hit you. And you can just take your time, sit there, and attack everything. This will take a long time since you have to have everybody come to you, but if you're in any kind of trouble, just run to this place, a safe spot, and they can't get you. Now this entire area has a whole bunch of waves that go on. First wave, you have to defeat the 4 pillars. You have to attack them until they break. You can stand off to the side or like kind of behind them if you want to take less damage from enemies. Once you've broken or defeated all 4 pillars, you will have to kill all of the ice or snow elementals. Once all of them are done, then you'll have the next phase, which is the shades. There's 4 shades that come out and fight you. As soon as they come out, you go into the nether realm, and it turns like pinkish purple, I don't know, whatever the color this is, and you can't see anything. This is horrible. And for that I've got a cute trick. All you have to do is go into your graphics and set it to very low. And voila, now you can actually see what you're doing. So basically now you have to fight down these 4 shades. Once you've defeated all 4 of them, this phase will end, and then you can change back your graphics, and now you just have to beat the boss. Now it keeps on teleporting around. Luckily for you, you're playing a build who can quickly close the gap and catch up to him. So as soon as you kill him, the entire boulder is going to start falling out of the sky. So what you're supposed to do is run back to the entrance, and then you can jump from there down to where the shrine is, and hopefully you'll be able to trigger the extra objective of jumping off the boulder. For the life of me though, I've never been actually successful at doing this, so I'm sorry, this is the best advice I can give you, but good luck. Anyways, yeah, that's it for this quest. I think it's a pretty long quest and probably should be designed as a raid, and that last end fight can be extremely tedious. Also, I made tons of mistakes and backtracked and a whole bunch of other stuff that, yeah, wasted a lot of time for no good reason. Anyways, this is going to wrap up this video, and also this is going to close down this entire saga. Now we're done with this QuickStick build, and hopefully I can move on to new and perhaps even better things. I appreciate everybody who gave me so much nice feedback. It was a really nice ride, and I appreciate everybody being so kind in the comments and basically making such a nice community here on the YouTube channel. So really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. And if you enjoy these videos, I'd appreciate it also if you would hit like and subscribe. I really need it, and it'll help me out with the channel and help it grow. Anyways, so that's going to be it, and I hope to see you in a different video. Anyways, take care.